They say your life can change in an instant. One moment, you're living your normal, everyday routine, and the next, you find yourself caught in a nightmare you never saw coming. That's exactly what happened to me. My name is Asayama, and this is the story of how I was falsely accused of a crime I didn't commit. It all began on an ordinary Tuesday in Kumasi. I had just left work, exhausted after a long day at the office. I work as a shopkeeper at a flower store in Fanti New Town, right off the Asofo interchange. The pay isn't all that good, but we are managing it small and it keeps food on the table for my wife, Esenam, and our 5-year-old son, Sammy. That day, like many others, I was just looking forward to getting home, taking off my clothes, and spending some time with my family. As I was walking through the busy streets of Kumasi going to the station to board a trotro, my phone rang. It was Esenam, her voice cheerful as always. She asked me to pick up some foodstuffs on my way home, bread, eggs, and some vegetables. I agreed, of course. A quick stop at the market wouldn't hurt, and it was right along the way. I moved inside Asofo market and made my way through the bustling crowds. The air was thick with the smell of spices, fresh produce, and smoked fish. Vendors called out, trying to sell their goods to the passers-by. I bought everything Esenam had asked for and was about to head back to the car when it happened. A sharp scream pierced the air, freezing everyone in their tracks. I turned to see a young woman running towards me, her face pale with fear. She stumbled, and before I could react, she grabbed my arm, clutching it as if her life depended on it. "Please, help me. He's after me," the woman said, panting. Her voice trembled, and her eyes were wide with terror. I didn't know what to do. My first instinct was to help her, to calm her down and ask what had happened. But before I could say a word, a man appeared from the crowd, pointing directly at me. "That's him. That's the man who stole my bag, Kromfo O. My heart dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked around, expecting someone to step in and clear up the misunderstanding, but instead, people started to gather, murmuring among themselves. The crowd seemed to grow thicker by the second, and I could feel their eyes on me, getting ready to pounce on me, in a jungle justice way. I tried to explain myself, but none of them was ready to listen to me. The man, still pointing at me, demanded that someone call the police. And just like that, my life took a turn I never expected. Within minutes, the police from Railway Police Station arrived. They pulled me aside, asking questions I couldn't fully comprehend in my state of shock. The woman who had grabbed me was nowhere to be found, and the man, my accuser, insisted that I had stolen his bag and attacked him when he tried to get it back. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" asked the police officer Stanley. I tried to explain that it wasn't me, that I had just come to the market to buy foodstuffs for my wife. But the officer's face remained cold and skeptical. My protest seemed hollow in the face of the accusations, and before I knew it, I was being handcuffed and led to the back of a police car. As I sat there, the weight of the situation began to sink in. How had this happened? Just an hour ago, I was going about my day, and now I was being treated like a criminal. The ride to the police station felt like a blur, the people and the buildings passing by in a dizzying haze. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. When we arrived at the station, they made me remove my clothes, all the while treating me like a common thief. They put me in a holding cell, and that's when the real fear set in. What would happen to me? What would happen to Esenam? How would she react when she found out I had been arrested? Hours passed, though it felt like an eternity. Eventually, I was allowed a phone call. I dialed Esenam's number with shaking hands. When she answered, I could hear the worry in her voice. "Esioma, where are you? What's going on?" "Esenam, it's a mistake. They think I stole something, but it wasn't me. I need you to come to the station." I tried to keep my voice steady, but I knew she could hear the fear in it. She promised to come right away, and within an hour, she was there, along with our pastor, Sofo Danso, and as soon as he heard what had happened, he called a lawyer in our church to come and take care of the situation. They released me on bail, but the nightmare was far from over. I was charged with theft and assault, and I knew I had a long legal battle ahead of me. The next few weeks were some of the hardest of my life. Everywhere I went, I felt the weight of the accusation hanging over me. At work, my shop owner told me to take some days off, not knowing she was indirectly sacking me. My co-tenants avoided me, their once friendly smiles replaced with suspicious glances. The news of my arrest spread quickly, and even some family members began to treat me differently. Despite it all, Esinam stood by my side. She believed in me when no one else did, and she never wavered in her support. But I could see the toll it was taking on her. The stress, the worry, it was all too much. And yet, she remained my rock, never letting me fall into despair. The day of the trial arrived, and I felt a knot in my stomach as I walked into the courtroom. The prosecutor painted me as a common thief, someone who had taken advantage of the chaos of the market to commit a crime. They had witnesses, people who claimed to have seen me running from the scene, but I knew they were wrong. I knew I hadn't done it. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up, my hands shaking. I told the court my story, how I had gone to the market to buy foodstuffs, how the woman had grabbed me, how the man had falsely accused me. I spoke from the heart, hoping that someone would believe me. Then, something unexpected happened. A woman in the back of the courtroom stood up and asked to speak. She introduced herself as Efuata, a market woman who had been working near the scene of the crime that day. She testified that she had seen the real thief, a young man who had fled the scene just before the chaos erupted. She said she had recognized me from the news and knew I wasn't the man she had seen. Her testimony changed everything. The prosecutor's case began to unravel, and it became clear that I had been falsely accused. The judge, after hearing all the evidence, found me not guilty, and I was finally free. As I walked out of the courtroom, Esinam by my side, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But the experience had changed me. I knew that my life would never be the same, that I would always carry the scars of what had happened. But I was determined to move forward, to rebuild my life and leave the nightmare behind. In the end, I learned a valuable lesson, that life can change in an instant, and that sometimes, the only thing you can do is hold on to the people you love and fight for the truth. It wasn't me, and now, finally, the world knew it too.